These are all of Stewie Griffin's questionable relationships in Family Guy. Starting with Janet, the first girl to ever break Stewie's heart in the episode Dammit Janet. So the episode starts with Lois worrying that Stewie is having trouble making friends with other kids. It's not hard to see why, as he seems to be trapping kids in a hole on the playground.
Everyone, meet Jeffrey, the newest member of the Club of Forgotten Children.
Lois decides to put Stewie in daycare so he can learn to socialize with others, only Stewie isn't too keen on the idea, seeing it as a punishment.
If this is about the whole me killing you thing, it was a bit. I was doing shtick, I tell you.
Stewie seems to be a slow learner, not really understanding the complexities of duck, duck, goose, but his actions do attract the giggles of a young girl in his group, which makes his heart flutter. He decides to get her attention in typical little boy fashion, by hitting her.
Goose! Oh, come on now, I barely touched you.
At night, he finds himself unable to sleep with his mind transfixed on Janet. Stewie doesn't understand these feelings, but Brian sure does. Stewie is in love.
Face it, you're a sucker for a woman with blue eyes.
Aha! Her eyes are green!
Aha! Thank you for proving my point.
Stewie decides to spy on Janet from afar, sure of himself that he's not in love. Yet when Janet throws him a simple, "Hi, Stewie," he can't even form a proper sentence. While inside, Stewie does manage to muster up a few words for Janet, even though she seems more interested in having his cookie.
Oh, you want my cookie? Oh yes, by all means.
Feeling a trembling in his stomach, Stewie can't deny he's in love any longer. Or he just has gas. Sometimes I can't tell either. Wearing his best flowers, Stewie decides to finally profess his feelings to Janet with a cute little musical number.
You'll make me feel so young. You make me feel like spring has sprung.
Can we just take a moment to appreciate that Seth MacFarlane can sing in all of the voices he does? Janet and Stewie seem to be getting on like a married couple, fantasizing about their future together. Well, Stewie dreams of that. Janet just wants more cookies. When Stewie catches Janet sharing a cookie with another boy, he confronts her on the legitimacy of their playground one-day relationship.
Look, Janet, is there something you need to tell me? Because if I'm the only one in this thing, well, I think I deserve to know.
Her glazed-over toddler eyes say enough as Stewie walks away heartbroken over his first love. Not willing to give up just yet, Stewie attempts to make Janet jealous by hanging out with another girl, but she doesn't seem to care all that much. During nap time, Stewie tries to convince himself to give up on love, but the memory of Janet is too strong to deny.
Oh, it's no use. She swims in my blood now. I must have her.
Stewie crawls over to profess his love one last time, and to his shock, Janet actually says she likes him. Overjoyed, Stewie goes to give her another cookie, but it suddenly hits him.
Cookie? Cookie? Cookie?
Realizing she just wants him for his cookies, the gold of daycare, Stewie realizes he must end things himself and walk away, though he can't help but shed a few tears. This is a valuable life lesson, kids. Don't ever let someone use you for your cookies. Stewie has a bit more of a love-hate relationship with his next girl, Olivia, as they form a performing act in From Method to Madness. Stewie decides to tag along with Brian to an audition for a local play, half wanting him to fail, half wanting him to get out of the house more. Brian ends up bombing in about 5 seconds, which prompts Stewie to rush onto the stage in his defense.
I saw a man bare his soul up here, and his pain ran through my heart like an errant locomotive.
Impressed with his passion, the theater director is asked to have Stewie join the Rising Stars program at the school. Next stop, Broadway. While in class, Stewie meets a young actress named Olivia, who refuses to do a scene with him since he's inexperienced. Even after he does an acting exercise, she still makes jokes at his expense, but Stewie won't be having any of that, will he?
Oh gosh, that's funny. That's really funny.
He goes on for almost a full minute telling her how funny she is to show how not funny she is. Now that's acting. By the end of the day, they haven't made any progress on becoming friends, let alone entertain the thought of sitting next to each other.
Well, I'd love to stay and chat, but you're a total
The next day, Stewie overhears the teacher talking about how Olivia's refusal to work with anyone may lead to her flunking out. Don't celebrate too hard, Stewie, because you're on the chopping block too. Both he and Olivia need to nail their final to stay in, and when he brings this to her attention, the two agree to work together to save themselves. On the day of the finals, Stewie and Olivia put aside their differences and deliver a snazzy duet that may or may not hint at their budding feelings.
Thank goodness I got you.
The two pass with flying colors, but that's not important. The real issue is, why is Olivia's dress suddenly blue? Trash episode, 0 out of 10, wouldn't recommend. Their teacher wants to take them on tour to share their talents with the world, and although Lois has her worries, she eventually agrees. They hit all the glamorous venues like the retirement home, and even though they've got great chemistry on stage, they still bicker behind the scenes about things like who can hit the best note. They even make it all the way to their first stage performance, though they still can't stop arguing even about whose name comes first on the marquee. But what showbiz couple doesn't hate each other, right? Tensions finally boil over when the two get into a fist fight on the night of their biggest performance. With their act up in flames, Olivia decides to walk. Striking out on his own, Stewie tries everything from solo musicals to one-man shows to creepy ventriloquism, but he can't achieve the same success he had with Olivia. With no career to speak of, Stewie is visited by Olivia, who reveals she's off to Hollywood for a movie. She parts ways with a kiss, and Stewie doesn't exactly take the breakup well.
Hey, how you doing, kid?
Are you from Wardrobe?
No, it's me, Brian.
One day you're on top of the world, and the next you're in a psych ward. That's showbiz, baby. This isn't the last we see of Olivia, though, as she returns to Quahog in the episode Chick Cancer, where the pair actually get married. Stewie sees Olivia covered on the news, showing how she became the star of a juice ad with quite the catchy jingle.
Tasty juice, drink it then convert it to pee.
Unfortunately for her, the brand is dropping her and going in a new direction. When Stewie hears she'll be doing a store opening at the Quahog Mall, he gleefully plans to attend just to annoy her. On the day of the opening, Stewie can't bring himself to heckle her when he realizes how good she looks. She looks the same as the last time you saw her, but okay, I guess. Inside the store, the two strike up a conversation where Olivia reveals that her family is moving back into their old house. Stewie shoots his shot and tries to invite her over, but Olivia is a changed girl.
You're sweet, but since I moved to Hollywood, I've done a lot of growing up. I'm dating more sophisticated men now.
Not willing to give up just yet, Stewie tries to appear more grown up by wearing Brian's discarded fur on his body. No baby should be that hairy.
I just kind of feel like kicking it tonight.
Oh, look at that. I'm growing all the time.
Brian states this is not the way to attract Olivia, suggesting Stewie should check out how Quagmire gets women. Have you ever watched the show, Brian? Stewie's takeaway from watching is that women like it when they're treated badly, so he plans to put this to the test on Olivia.
Well, Olivia, prepare to meet a much darker Stewie Griffin.
Dressed like a bad boy, Stewie stops by Olivia's house to try out his theory. After calling her ugly and comparing her to a squash, Olivia starts to cry.
So I'll pick you up at 7?
That sounds wonderful.
I feel like I have a moral obligation to say do not try that at home. Luckily, Stewie drops the jerk attitude on the date itself, where the two share a nice afternoon of ice cream and people watching.
You know, Stewie, I'm really glad I gave you another chance. You're a really special guy.
Aw, they're pretty cute together when they aren't trying to murder one another on stage. Now a couple, the two attend a birthday party where they run into Victor, a kid with a silky smooth voice that Olivia appeared in a commercial with.
Yeah, I'm more into writing now. Oh, hang on a sec. Idea for a short story. Guy picks his nose, then eats it.
A jealous Stewie tries to pry Olivia away from Victor, which prompts her to pull Stewie away to argue. She thinks he's being a jerk and doesn't get to dictate who she talks to.
You don't own me. I can talk to whoever I want. I don't see a ring on my finger.
Wow, young love moves quickly. The two quickly adjust to married life, living in a cardboard house in the backyard. Yet marital issues are already settling in as Stewie feels dissatisfied with their lack of love life.
We have yet to have sex.
Do you even know what sex is?
That's not the point. Don't change it. It's a kind of cake.
The two try to have a nice double date with Brian and Jillian, but Stewie and Olivia's bickering effectively ruins any chance of that happening. Stewie still believes Olivia doesn't find him mature enough, so he decides to commit and do all the things babies do, like crying loudly and picking fights with random men.
What's that, sir? What's that? I'm sorry, am I being too loud for you? You want to come over here and quiet me down?
Stewie is crumbling under the pressures of being married, but Brian reminds him that marriage is about sticking it out through thick and thin. When Stewie returns to his home, he finds Olivia and Victor playing with silly putty. And no, that's not a double entendre, you sickos. They're just some child crimes that can't be forgiven, so Stewie handles things accordingly.
Idea for a farce. Cheating wife and Papa's ass burned alive.
But don't worry, Olivia isn't dead as she returns one more time to try to ruin Stewie and Brian's relationship in The Boys in the Band. When Stewie is forced to watch a child-friendly show called The Turtlenecks, he complains that their songs are stupid and don't actually cover real baby issues. When Brian asks how that can be done, Stewie suggests that a baby would know what to write. Just so happening to be one of those, Stewie pairs up with Brian to write some children's songs. The two get hard to work on their first songs, including one about drinking while pregnant. Fun!
Mama liked to party when you were in her belly. That's why you are dumb.
With that certified hood classic under their belt, Stewie sets them up for their very first gig at a birthday party. When they arrive at the party, Brian spots Olivia taking pictures with kids. Stewie freaks out seeing his ex, worried about how he looks. The two kids greet one another, and Olivia still seems kind of vexed over the whole almost being burnt to death thing. Jeez, get over it already. Brian tells Stewie to keep his eye on the prize, and the two successfully entertain the party with their music. Seeing the reaction they get, Olivia decides to make a move on Stewie.
Oh, he can't go out with you tonight. He's got a date with me.
Really?
Awesome.
Olivia begins to insert herself into the group, becoming president of their fan club. Brian questions her intentions, but Stewie doesn't see how this could go wrong. Yeah, you never tried to set her on fire or anything. What grudge could she possibly have? The duo continues to see success from party to party until Olivia starts insisting that Brian is the weak link of the group since Stewie writes all the songs.
I just hate to see Brian getting all the attention that you deserve.
Stewie's manufactured jealousy causes him to lash out at Brian during a mic check. Olivia approaches Brian, questioning his future with the band, but she proposes that she and him form their own band, kicking Stewie to the curb. After telling him that Stewie wanted to kick him out, Brian seems convinced Olivia is the way to go.
You're fired. Pardon? That's right. Olivia's taking your place in the band.
That's cold. The new pairing of Brian and Olivia manages to land a stadium show, but Brian begins to have second thoughts when he spots a crying Stewie in the crowd. Olivia doesn't seem to care, but Brian is racked with too much guilt and decides to quit the band. Brian finds Stewie and tells him what happened, admitting that he let Olivia manipulate him. Stewie forgives him, leaving Olivia to find a new replacement. I mean, where is she gonna find another singing dog?
All right, listen up, you little pieces of garbage.
Oh yeah, I'm glad Vinny managed to bounce back. Stewie also has a taste for older women like LaDawn, a babysitter who he falls head over heels for in 8 Simple Rules for Buying My Teenage Daughter. Meg is fed up with having to babysit Stewie all the time as it keeps her from her social life. I know what you're thinking. What social life?
I could be out having a life.
Meg, if you don't want to babysit anymore, that's fine, but don't you stand there and lie to me.
Lois starts to interview possible candidates but doesn't have much luck, passing up a couple that doesn't speak English and whatever that thing is.
The position has been filled. The position has been filled. Thank you very much. You can go now.
Before they give up on the hunt, a young woman comes to apply for the job and Stewie immediately falls in love. Excited for his big date, Stewie does everything he can to make himself more appealing.
Well, this here? Oh, it's just my package.
Weird, but they do seem to spend a nice night together playing Jenga.
Stewie, you are so cute, I can't even stand it.
Stewie looks to continue romancing LaDawn, but is brought back to reality when she brings over her boyfriend Jeremy. Upset over this revelation, Stewie goes on a long tirade before LaDawn manages to put him to sleep.
If he wants to throw hands, I'll throw hands. I tell you, how do...
When Stewie walks in on the two of them making out, he decides to take matters into his own hands. Jeremy returns home to find his power out and an ominous drawing of him as a ghost hanging on the mirror. Before he realizes what's happening, Stewie rushes in with a tire iron and takes out his legs.
I say, I think this is how you change a tire, but what do I know? I'm just a baby!
Stewie manages to tie Jeremy up and stuffs him in the back of a car. Well, that solves that. He finally has LaDawn all to himself and decides to make his move by gifting her a mixtape. LaDawn bursts into tears, upset that Jeremy stopped calling her. Acting shocked, Stewie tries to comfort her but ends up getting a little too handsy.
Stewie, no! That is a bad place to touch, no!
Sad and angry about completely misreading the vibes, Stewie threatens to have LaDawn fired. To get his revenge, Stewie manages to knock out LaDawn and stages the house to look like there was a party.
It was all her friends. They were doing marijuana and heroin.
Yeah, that's how you say those. Furious, Lois fires the confused LaDawn. She says her final goodbyes to Stewie, gifting him his own mixtape as she leaves. Realizing he's made a terrible mistake, Stewie rushes into the night, calling out her name, but it's all too late. We end up back to where we started, with Meg once again babysitting Stewie. I can't help but feel like we forgot something, though.
Oh, I suppose neither of us is really cut out for love and wish...
Oh my god, Jeremy's still in the trunk.
Oh, I'm sure he's fine. You can survive without oxygen, right? Another teen girl Stewie tries to date is Connie D'Amico, this time by disguising himself as a popular kid in McStroke. While watching a show about how serious and dramatic high school is, Stewie expresses how he's much cooler than any of those dweebs. He proposes that if you dropped him into any high school, he would become the most popular kid within a week. Brian decides to make that wager and the stakes are high.
Okay, if I win and you can't do it, you have to put your nose in Meg's hat and take an 8-second inhale.
Ugh, can't we do something a little lighter, like waterboarding? Stewie manages to sneak into school via Meg's backpack, adopting the name Zach Sawyer and walking right up to the popular kids.
My name is Zach Sawyer. I just transferred here from rich, expensive, car-driving, sex-having high school.
Using just the right amount of high school buzzwords, Stewie easily manages to win over the popular kids. Now integrated into the popular circle, Stewie decides to make his next move by asking out Connie.
You want to go out to Anal Point this weekend? See what all the buzz is about?
OMG, that'd be so awesome.
It's a date, but you've got to wonder exactly what you do at a place named that. Stewie comes to gloat to Brian about his rise in popularity, which Brian honorably acknowledges. He asks if this is the end of Zach Sawyer, but it's actually the opposite. It sounds like it's just the beginning with Stewie's hot date. Brian does his best to explain the nuances of Anal Point, using the analogy of parking a car in a tight space.
Well, in that scenario, it sounds like I'd rather be the parking space than the car.
Yeah, that's what I've always guessed.
don't think about it too hard. The big moment finally comes, but before things get a little too R-rated, Connie is having an issue with something that isn't very big.
Is there more underneath, or is that it?
I'm sorry?
Connie kicks him out of the car, leaving Stewie to wonder what all the hype was about. When he comes to school the next day, Stewie finds everyone giving him the cold shoulder.
What the hell is going on here?
Nothing, baby penis.
Turns out Connie told the whole school about what happened last night. With his reputation ruined, Stewie decides to give up the second identity, but asks for one last parting kiss from Connie.
Look! This girl is making out with a baby! A nude baby!
And with that, another creep is off the streets thanks to the incomparable Zach Sawyer. There goes my hero. Stewie finally goes back to girls his own age with Susie Swanson, whose heart he tries to win over after she's born in Ocean's 3.5. After 7 long years, Bonnie is finally ready to have that baby. Everything is going according to plan, with Joe offering his own patented brand of support.
Get out of there! Get the hell out of my wife, you little bastard!
One little wheelchair later, Bonnie brings a beautiful baby girl into the world. Stewie finally gets to meet the new Susie Swanson and immediately falls in love. Brian doesn't think he has a chance with her, but that won't stop Stewie from giving it a shot. Later on, Brian hears some guitar strumming coming from Stewie's room. It turns out he's working on a love song for Susie and wants Brian's feedback.
Susie, you're a baby. That's all I have so far.
Evidently, he still has quite a ways to go, but at least he has a title for it. Susie. How creative. As Brian points out, he isn't the first person to name a song after a woman.
Name 20.
Rosanna, Roxanne, Michelle, Allison, Sarah, Angie, Brandy, Mandy.
And so on and so forth. Stewie continues to admire Susie from afar, muttering some totally not creepy things to himself.
Look at that, she can fit that whole bottle in her mouth.
This doesn't lead to any actual inspiration, as Stewie kinda just messes around with the chords until Brian comes in and says what we're all thinking.
You sound like an unbelievable douche.
Hey, he said it, not me. After who knows how many hours of painstaking songwriting, Stewie has finally put together his masterpiece. A music video professing his love to Susie Swanson.
All right, Brian. Get ready to feel.
What we're treated to next is 2 minutes of a heartfelt love song backdropped with tons of interesting, provocative, thought-provoking imagery that, when mashed together, doesn't make a whole lot of narrative sense.
I'm not following the story arc here.
Shut up!
At least it's a heartfelt personal song, or at least it would be if he didn't steal it from the original artist, Bryan Adams. Stewie, you hack! Well, it's done now, so hopefully Susie will like it.
So, how'd Susie like your video?
I don't care about her anymore. I'm in love with Bryan Adams.
Great, thanks for wasting everybody's time. Julie becomes one of Stewie's castmates when he disguises himself as a girl to get on his favorite television show, falling in love with her in the process in Go Stewie Go. Stewie sits down to enjoy his favorite British television show, Jolly Farm, a show where I guess they teach you a bunch of disturbing nursery rhymes.
It's raining luggage and babies and limbs and daddy doesn't come home.
Haunting. Brian informs Stewie that an American version is being made and just so happens to be shooting in Quahog. Since it's his favorite show, Stewie goes in for an audition, but before he even gets the chance to show his stuff, the casting director tells all the boys to go home, as there's only a role for a little girl left. Stewie's heartbroken, but as we all know, if there's an opportunity to cross-dress, Stewie is gonna do it.
Hello, everyone!
Going under the alias Karina Smirnoff, Stewie impresses the crew by making up a story about a bombing in Times Square.
My cousin works in Times Square.
Well, your cousin is fine because I was acting!
The little maniac impresses them so much that they sign her to the show right on the spot. To really put his new persona to the test, Stewie meets up with Brian at a bar and starts to flirt with him. It actually goes surprisingly well, convincing Brian he's a lost and lonely out-of-towner. But of course, Brian has to take it a little too far.
Brian, it's me, Stewie.
Stewie was in the wrong, but my god, Brian. Stewie reveals his ruse to Brian, explaining how he's Jolly Farm's latest star and needs Brian to be his on-set guardian. Mad about being tricked, Brian leaves to tell Lois, but Stewie knows how to reel him back.
Brian, we both know I touched it. Now, if you'd like to keep that just between us, I suggest you sit back down and order me some chicken fingers.
During his first day on set, Stewie meets the rest of the cast, including Julie, who he quickly develops feelings for. During the first scene, Stewie establishes Karina as an outspoken feminist when he revolts against a line his co-star says.
Hey, Mary, bet I'll beat you to the barn.
That sounds like a really chauvinistic presumption.
When the director questions him on this, Stewie stands by playing a strong female character, which the director agrees to accept.
Good luck. She'll be gone in 3 episodes.
Cue the "this kid was so wrong" montage. The show ends up being a hit, with Karina being the breakout star who receives critical acclaim and adoring fan mail. Brian asks how long Stewie plans to keep up this act, and from the looks of it, Stewie has no intention of slowing down anytime soon, especially with him growing closer to Julie. It's too bad that she happens to be dating the show's resident a-hole, Randall. Brian asks why Stewie would even care.
Because I think I'm in love with her.
Stewie nearly blows his cover when Julie comes by unannounced, passing himself off as Karina's brother. He manages to get into character surprisingly fast while holding a fake argument between himself and Karina. Say what you want, but that boy can act. Julie invites him to read lines with her tonight after having a falling out with Randall. Sounds like somebody just found their moment. After a nice night together, Stewie can barely hold in his feelings any longer. When Julie comes in asking for a hug, Stewie reaches for a little bit more, planting a kiss on Julie.
I'm not a lesbian.
No, I'm not either.
What are you exactly?
We're all wondering that, Brian. Julie apologizes and leaves, saying things would be different if Karina was a boy. If only she knew. During the taping, Karina interrupts the episode to divulge a long, lengthy, fake backstory about how she isn't really Karina, nor is she a she.
I'm Desmond Sunflower, and I'm a boy.
After that little outburst, Stewie's time on Jolly Farms comes to an end, with Julie's mother refusing to let her talk to him. At least Stewie came out as who he truly is, a confused, sexually ambiguous, maniacal toddler. Penelope is Stewie's intellectual match, but she shows she may just be more evil when their relationship turns deadly in Mr. and Mrs. Stewie. Stewie gets pushed over at the park by a rude kid who refuses to let him play with his toys. This attracts the attention of another highly intelligent British child named Penelope. New to town, Penelope looks to make friends with Stewie by taking care of his little bully with a piece of super glue taffy. Wow, playgrounds are a lot more brutal than when I was a kid. This casual child murder sparks a friendship between Stewie and Penelope, with the former going over to her house for a play date. The two seem to be getting along great, having quite a bit in common. Quite a bit, as Stewie learns when Penelope shows off her own weapons room.
You've got a weapons room too? And look at the size of it, it's amazing!
Hey, what is it about Quahog that attracts evil babies? Could Rhode Island be the evilest state? Stewie is madly impressed by Penelope having the artillery of a small country in her bedroom, asking if her parents suspect anything. Luckily for her, Penelope's mother isn't in the picture, saying that someone cut her head off while in the bath. You don't say.
Wait a minute. Did you kill her?
Not even Stewie has had the guts to go through with that. All this talk about killing your mother has Stewie feeling romantic, professing his love to Penelope there and then.
I may have finally found, in you, my one true soulmate.
Luckily for Stewie, Penelope feels the same way, believing destiny to have brought them together for this purpose. With love and villainy in the air, the two enact their first joint plan, planting a bomb in Mort's wallet that will explode when he opens it. But after 2 weeks, Mort still has yet to open his wallet. Must be a frugal guy. Maybe plan B will work, the bomb that goes off when he burps into his hand.
Oh, I better make sure my wallet's okay.
The two stay quite busy, exploding national monuments and making neighboring countries go to war with one another. They even make a little game where you draw places and scenarios out of a hat. It's like Mad Libs, except a lot of people die.
I have to destroy Copenhagen with a tidal wave, and the theme is the Roaring Twenties.
Global authorities have yet to catch the culprits behind these heinous crimes, but Brian deduces it's Stewie and Penelope almost immediately. I don't know why Brian is so surprised. This has always been Stewie's deal. What did he think victory shall be mine meant?
You have not said that in a very long time.
Well, I'm back on it.
Brian points out where the two toddlers are different. While Stewie eventually wants world domination, Penelope just wants to cause as much chaos as possible. He thinks they should stop seeing each other, but Stewie refuses to leave his true love. You don't meet your soulmate at 1 year old just every day. Stewie tries to tone down the amount of killing the two do, but Penelope becomes suspicious of Stewie's change of heart. He explains that Brian thinks she's a bad influence on him, so Penelope asks Stewie to prove his love to her with one simple task.
Kill Brian for me.
Ooh, things are about to get spicy. Stewie tries to work up the courage to kill his dog, but whether it's a big sledgehammer or a cloth full of chemicals, he just can't bring himself to go through with it. Returning to Penelope with non-bloodied hands, Stewie explains he just can't kill his best friend. Weak. I could do that. Penelope realizes it was wrong to ask Stewie to do such a thing, because as the saying goes, if you want your lover's dog dead, you'll have to kill him yourself. Classic phrase.
It appears I'll have to kill him myself.
What?
I knew you were too weak to do this.
Stewie rushes home to warn Brian, making sure he doesn't ingest any coffee or donuts in case Penelope poisoned them. The situation eventually becomes apparent when Brian receives a suspicious package in the mail. Ooh, new alarm clock?
Brian, no!
Yeah, my alarm clock did that too. Stewie admits Penelope asked him to kill Brian, but when he couldn't do it, she took matters into her own hands. Penelope finally arrives to kill him herself, but Brian isn't scared.
Stewie, she's 1 year old. I think I can handle this myself.
A for effort, Brian. Stewie and Penelope engage in a high-tech shootout on the front lawn before launching themselves across town and onto the back of a truck. The two beat the absolute crap out of one another, with Stewie finally getting the upper hand.
Stay away from my dog.
Very well, Stewie, I shall.
As a final goodbye, Penelope passionately kisses him before launching him off the truck. There goes the only woman who loves him as much as she wants to kill him. And she was voiced by Cate Blanchett. You know how I feel about her on this channel. Stewie develops a crush on a very familiar little girl when he goes back in time in Valentine's Day in Quahog. This is a very brief fling, but I think it's still worth mentioning. On Valentine's Day, Stewie decides to use his time machine to go back to the 1960s during a period referred to as the Summer of Love.
Hey, I think you might be able to get me some acid?
I'll get you a rolled up newspaper on the snout is what I'll get you. Very bad dog.
See, kids? Stewie says no to drugs, but yes to a lot of other terrible things. Stewie teleports back to the 60s, a time of long hair, psychedelics, and questionable fashion choices. Almost immediately, he comes across a cute girl playing with a ball.
I must bring her back to the present and raise her to be my wife.
Nothing says true love like kidnapping and grooming. When the girl gets strolled away, Stewie chases after her to not let his future bride get away. He manages to catch up to her and lets his true feelings show with an impromptu smooch. But then her dad shows up.
There's my little Lois.
Yep, Stewie just had an Oedipus moment. Feel free to Google that guy. With his mind shattered and his stomach emptied, Stewie quickly returns to his own time.
Stewie, what happened? None of your business what happened. Jeez, you kiss your mother with that mouth?
If you only knew, Brian. It is pretty funny the woman Stewie's been wanting to kill for years also managed to steal his heart. He can work that one out in therapy. Wanting a taste of marital life, Stewie marries Zalata, in the marrying kind. The adventure begins when Peter and the whole gang are invited to Mort and his fiancée Rachel's wedding in New Orleans.
And you're all invited to our wedding this Thursday.
I can't go.
In New Orleans.
By myself. I have to bring my family.
Just as they intended, Mort and Rachel marry through a touching ceremony. Stewie, more than anyone it seems, is very touched by the wedding, having never realized that marriage could be so beautiful. The family returns home and it looks like Stewie's making moves on his marriage dream when a large package arrives for him. Out pops Zalata, a mail-order bride Stewie had shipped from the Ukraine so he can finally settle down.
Is there a dead body in there?
Yeah, they send two in case one dies.
She was sister.
Aw, sorry Brian. Looks like you'll just have to keep looking for that special someone. Brian calls this out for how obviously crazy it is, but Stewie sees this as a win-win. He gets to experience the joys of married life and she gets to live it up in Rhode Island. The newlywed couple make fine work of turning home, and like most modern families, Stewie picks up a job at Enterprise, loaning used cars and cleaning vomit out of said used cars. The American dream.
Hey, I accidentally barfed in my car. They told me I could leave it here.
Yeah, I'll clean it.
What is it about Enterprise that makes everybody vomit? The endless toil over cleaning vomit all day slowly starts to wear Stewie down. Luckily, he has time to wind down with some wine when he and Zalata go on a double date with another couple, telling dull work stories that nearly put me to sleep while watching. Don't worry, I'll spare you the nap. Afterward, the couple settle in for the night while watching some TV, though there's a bit of tension in the air. Zalata throws herself on Stewie, who tries to defuse the situation so he can watch TV.
Why you not have sex with me?
I don't know, Zalata. He might be trying to keep you off of a certain government list. He's thankfully able to work his way out of this situation, but it's clear that marital life may have its issues. The next night, Brian drops by for Stewie, but Zalata informs him he's still at work. Brian tries to leave, but Zalata reels him in with the magic words.
I hear you are a famous writer. I want to talk your book.
Say no more, Zalata. His ego can only get so big. Stewie finally returns home, and if you couldn't tell where that last scene was going, let me make it clearer for you.
Hey, Stewie.
Ryan? What the hell? That's my wife, man. Get off her.
Brian explains that he didn't think Stewie would mind considering he and Zalata aren't actually getting it on. Stewie still feels betrayed that he's working himself to death to give her nice things. There's only one punishment for a friend that betrays you like this.
You play doctor with my wife, Brian? You show her yours? She show you hers?
Oh, that's actually much better than what I was thinking. The three sit down for an awkward dinner where Stewie announces that he has a solution to their issue.
I want you to have no ties sex with my wife. But that's it.
Basically, Stewie wants Brian to do all the dirty work, wink wink, while Stewie does all of the other marital duties. Brian is pretty confused as to why Stewie wants to do all the boring parts of marriage, but it's those boring parts that Stewie loves the most. Man, he's a real family man. Someone should make a show about that. Sadly, Zalata is gone before this deal can ever come to fruition. Stewie says that's her underwear in those boxes, but am I right to assume he chopped her up? So who is Stewie's real true love? No, it's not Brian, despite all the evidence to the contrary. His real true love may actually be his other best friend Rupert, as seen when the two break off their relationship in the talented Mr. Stewie. It's a cause for celebration for Stewie and Rupert when Stewie returns home with some exciting news.
I got Busy Bee for the second week in a row! Miss Debbie said that I was the best at sharing and helping.
This monumental occasion was only made possible by the pairing of Baby and Bear, who can seemingly accomplish anything together.
I'm going for 3 weeks, Rupert. Nobody's ever gotten Busy Bee 3 weeks in a row before, and with you by my side, I know I can do it.
Before things get too saucy, Lois interrupts them, probably for the better. I don't think I want to see that. Up in the attic, Stewie is going through old photos of him and Rupert to make a collage for his #1 bear. While reminiscing on past memories, Stewie comes across a picture of Chris as a child, and for some reason, Rupert is there with him.
Well, Rupert belonged to Chris before he was yours. Didn't you know that?
No, I did not know that.
It turns out Rupert's name used to be Skippy and went with Chris everywhere, and he may have even been Peter's bear before that. Stewie decides to confront Rupert on the matter, but insists that he's not mad about it and doesn't see why this should change anything about the relationship. Wow, pretty mature for a baby talking about his stuffed bear. But it doesn't seem like he's actually made peace with it, making biting comments when Rupert apparently asks for a little intimacy.
Oh, I still have that headache. But if you want to go over to Chris's room...
Stewie apologizes, but it's clear Rupert's past is still bugging him as he cries himself to sleep. The next day, Stewie returns home with the news.
Well... I didn't get it.
Before a full-blown domestic incident can unfold, Stewie admits that the two should probably go their separate ways, as the thought of Rupert's relationship with Chris is negatively affecting Stewie's health and work. To make the split official, Stewie decides to offer Rupert back to Chris.
I want you to have Skippy back. I know you're going to try and stop me, but here
Okay.
And with that, the years-long relationship between this 1-year-old and this bear is over. Taking the breakup in stride, Stewie freshens himself up to let the world know he's back on the market.
It's time I got out there again. I've had one bear my whole life. That's not normal.
Nothing about you is normal.
Truer words have never been said. When Brian asks if he should keep an eye on Rupert, Stewie reveals that he turned him into a nanny cam, revealing that whenever Rupert and Chris interact, Stewie will be able to see it. Given that Chris is a hormonal teenage boy, you're playing with fire there, kiddo. Stewie decides to debut a new bear named Anton at dinner, no doubt as a ploy to make Rupert jealous. When Lois begins to reminisce on memories of Chris and Rupert together, Stewie jealously lashes out. He's not really beating the hasn't moved on allegations.
He's not in Evan Hansen. He's a male prostitute. Very cheap.
Unable to accept that Rupert has seemingly moved on, Stewie decides to take a soul-searching trip to find the new him. He decides to go on a globe-trotting trip from Indonesia to Italy to India. I guess all the soul-searchy countries start with the letter I. After a silent meditation retreat, it becomes clear what Stewie has to do.
I know how I'm going to move on. I have to kill Chris and Rupert right away.
I also get murderous tendencies when I do yoga. Renting a lakeside cabin, Stewie invites Chris and Rupert over for what will be their final meal. Stewie admits his intentions before knocking Chris out with a frying pan. Stewie rows the three of them out onto the middle of the lake, but Chris awakens and fights back, though Stewie overpowers him with an oar and dumps him into the water.
This is all because of you, Rupert. You broke my heart. Now it's your turn.
Before he can go through with it, Stewie receives a nanny cam video from Rupert from before they arrived. In the video, Chris admits that Rupert belongs with Stewie and plans to give him back after the dinner. Realizing the error of his ways, Stewie saves Chris. Stewie wouldn't kill Brian for Penelope, but he nearly murders Chris because of Rupert. If that isn't true love, I don't know what is. Speaking of love, if you loved this video, be sure to leave it a like and hit the subscribe button to see more great Family Guy videos.